Hey y'all, welcome back to this week's episode. I'm so excited that Keina's here and we are talking about freedom and money, two words that we don't always associate together, but she's going to help us make that association much better when we think about those, especially as creative small business owners. So when we are working so hard to grow our business, to bring in income for our family, and we want to have freedom within that. So Keina, I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, of course. When we were talking about before we got on the coffee chat, that like freedom and money are not two things that you equate oftentimes. Yeah. But I just had a conversation earlier this week with another creative entrepreneur, and she was saying that she hated managing her finances, but recently like decided that was going to be something she like went all in on. And she was one of the people that prior to going all in on this, she would have been like, budgeting is so restrictive, right? Like either on the personal or business finance side. And she's like, no, like now it's not. Like now I'm able to do the things that I desire to do. So one of the things we were talking about, she like follows profit first, a loose like profit first structure. And she's like, I'm gonna take my like payout that I'm giving to myself, and I'm gonna buy a Peloton bike because we're all in quarantine, and Peloton I think is in terms of money. Right. But she was saying like how excited she is to be able to even invest in herself in that way. But what also came out of that conversation is I think when we ignore our numbers, we're like actually living a lie. So in that, where you're telling yourself like, if I look at my numbers, I'm going to be restricted, you don't really have freedom right now. You just are living a lie is what I would say, right? Like you're swiping, whether it's in the business mindset of like, well, I'm going to swipe because this is a tax write-off and it's deductible, but you're really like taking away from your profit or your ability to pay yourself or save for taxes or save for your business or be able to like intentionally invest in the things that you want to invest in as a business owner, right? Like whether it's your membership program or other coaching programs or equipment, like whatever it looks like for you and your business. So
I think that's so wise to think about the freedom that comes from knowing what we have to spend. And then also the freedom that comes from knowing what we have to make in order to additionally be able to afford other things in our, whether it's in our business, that coaching program or, that experience that we want, or just personal things that, and goals that you have. I know that's something Matt and I've been really focusing on is what are our financial goals for our family and some things that we want to try to do, investments and things like that, because we have dreams and goals together that are completely outside of our business, but yet our business can help make those things happen. Right. We'll bring in income through the business.
Yeah. And I think like, even if I go back to like when I started my business, which was a little under 2 years ago, I even had my own mindset issues. There's like, I just need to replace my salary, right? Yeah. And so like, what did that actually look like? And what did that mean? And understanding your numbers as a business owner, I think is really important because $1 is not the same as it is like when somebody else is paying you, right? Like when you are employed by someone else, they've like taken out the taxes for you. They've taken care of your healthcare. Like they've done all these like essential things. And then when you go into business for yourself, you could like, if you have a $10,000 year, whatever that looks like, it's not really $10,000.
Right. Unfortunately.
Yeah, that might have been cash in, but now you have to like, whether it's like PayPal fees, and then you have, like I said, you're saving for taxes. And some people forget or just like are unaware that like I even need to pay attention to saving for taxes because like your brain hasn't made that connection.
Right.
That there's no like fairy godmother that's like, here, let me take out your taxes for you.
Yes. I was one of those people 7 years ago when I first started as a wedding planner. My very first year, I remember vividly, I was working full time at the time, my first year. And I remember getting the information back from my CPA on what I owed in taxes. Yeah. And I had to go out to the car and call my mom and cry because I could not believe, like I hadn't connected all of those dots. Like, wait, I'm getting this, but it's not actually mine yet. Like I still have to pay for taxes and stuff. I just was a baby business owner and I hadn't made connected all those dots yet. So that was a rude awakening for me at that moment in my business for sure.
I was on a call yesterday, so I led like a free like live group coaching call, and it was business owners that were actually all on this call. And I was saying, like, regardless of where you are in your business, like you have people that are in the very early stages, and then some people that have been in business for a few years. It's like I always talk to people about building habits. And if you can build the habit to have a system that like I consistently pay myself, I consistently set aside money for my expenses, I set aside money for saving within my business and saving for taxes, then you'll like get into this rhythm. And whether you made $500 this month or $50,000 this month, it'll just be something that you do, and it'll be the business owner that you are when it comes to managing your numbers. I think like that's another common pitfall when you're younger in business. It's like, well, I mean, I know I can write off like losses because I've like Googled it somewhere, which I would say like find out the information that you need wherever you are in your business, and like start today with trying to build in some better habits for managing your finances. And then if you like, I have an account that's just for taxes that I put money over in, and I'm comfortable with like saving for taxes by myself. But if I don't have to pay all of that money in taxes, then it's like, oh, look, it's like reward because
right.
I did the right thing. But then it's less painful when, you know, April 15th comes around and I'm thinking about like what I may owe or what I may not, because the truth is the money was never yours in the first place. But like, because you didn't have a system to manage your numbers, you accepted it as though it was yours.
Yeah, that's so true. So what would you say is or are some good habits to first to get started with, especially if like someone's listening to this conversation and like just really doesn't feel like they have a good handle on checking in with their finances, or they definitely don't equate the words freedom and money like in the same sentence together. Like, what are some habits that we can start doing right now?
Yeah, because I know that you serve like a varying audience, like some people that are married, single, is I always tell people like, one, on the personal side, like especially if you're in a place where like your business is funding your lifestyle, so you're paying yourself, is understand how much money you actually need for your personal expenses. Like, what does your paycheck need to be? What do you desire it to be?
Right.
Because I encounter business owners where it's like, well, you know, like I pay my bills, my personal bills, but it's not with like a level of, I want to say consistency, and more so in the sense of like, I go ahead and I pay my bills, but it's not like I could tell you that I take a $2,000 paycheck every single month or every 2 weeks. It's just, I funnel money when I need it, instead of like really setting a clear structure for what it looks like to pay yourself through your business. So get clear on your like personal expenses and what you need and how you desire your business to pay you. So I would say like that first. And then second is also, so you can pay yourself, you need to have a handle on like, what are your business expenses? Because those are the things that I think eat up, right? Like all of the money that you're making in. You've decided to invest in all of the like bells and whistles or these like silver bullets that you think are going to like make your business magical. So next I would tell people like really get a handle on what are you spending on in your business, right? Don't just spend money because you think I'm spending this because it's it's going to be tax deductible, or because I have money in the account. I want you to be spending money in a way that like you're thinking about what are the things that are essential for me to run my business, and even like leaving that space to invest in yourself, right? Like I am a fan of like business coaching. Like I will invest in business coaching all day because I've seen that support my own development as a business owner.
Yeah.
Where I would say like Canva doesn't necessarily support my development as a business owner. And I'm like fine with the free subscription to that, right? So like even just being able to sit down and say like, what are the things that I need? And am I using it? Because I think we get in traps too, where like we do the 14-day trials to things in our business, but then we never unsubscribe.
Right.
So really like calendar out a time to sit and think about like, what did I spend my money on in the last 30 days? And I think we're in a interesting time period right now too, with like COVID and like businesses are trying to find their like new groove and pivot. So I would say like, don't get stuck in but I've always kind of spent money on this. Like, this is a perfect time to think about like, oh, this is an expense I want to keep. Here's one that I might want to like pause right now because it doesn't make sense for me to continue to invest in it. And you can revisit it later, and then think about the expenses that you can just flat out cancel.
Yeah.
Your expense line is, as lean as possible. And it frees up, once again, it frees up space so you can save for taxes, so you can pay yourself and save within your business so you have a buffer when things like right now, what's happening, right? And you need to have more money in your account to make sure that your business can make it through like fluctuating seasons.
No, that's so smart. I also think it's been interesting for me to learn that even those little expenses add up. Like, it's so easy for me to be like, oh, well, Canva's not that much a month, or oh, Trello Gold is only like $5 a month. Like, when you really look at those expenses, those little things, like that can add up, and that could equal several $100s throughout the year that you're paying in all of these little things that you might not necessarily need.
Yeah. And I would say like that, I feel like business expenses, they get you because everything is $10.
Right.
It's like, it's just $10, and you're like, oh, that's, like you said, it's not that much, but it's weighing like, how am I really using it? Is there like a return on investment? Like, for instance, for a long time, I didn't have Zoom, like the actual paid version. Because I never did like a lot of like group calls. So it didn't make sense. I like had it for 6 months, and I'm like, I'm paying $15 a month for this, but it's not giving me $15 a month. And so lately, especially actually since quarantine, I've been doing like more group kind of like sessions that are geared towards like generating revenue. So like now I've decided it's a worthwhile expense. But before I was like, no, we can ride on the free stuff and go from there. And then I would add too, like as a third, like building habits within that is also scheduling something that I call like money dates. You can call them financial Fridays, wealthy Wednesdays, money Mondays. I don't care what you want to call it, but like scheduling a time every single week to like look at your numbers, because the more that you actually spend time looking with your numbers, the less fearful you're going to be about them.
Right.
And maybe your task, one of those dates, is to figure out how much am I spending? How much do I need to be paying myself? Maybe another date, you just want to sit there and comb through your expenses and think about like how you may want to like reduce your expenses or shift some things around.
Yeah.
But I say like having that weekly habit normalizes the fact that like you look at money and allows you to be better informed. And I think like that's where the freedom part comes in, because yes, I have this money to invest, or, that client that I projected the income to come in for, like that's working, and you can start to see the things that you desire to see financially happen in your business.
Yeah. I love that. I had to preach that to myself more. I hired a bookkeeper. That was one of the very first things I outsourced, because money, it was not my friend. And I wanted to just outsource and have somebody else to get in my back end, utilize QuickBooks for me, and categorize what needed to be categorized so that it would make time even easier. And I love having a bookkeeper and being able to outsource that. But I had to learn, but that doesn't mean I can be completely hands off of the book. I still need to have, like, her job isn't to say like, whoa, Kat, like red flag, like this expense is coming up. Like, I know there are some, bookkeeping agencies that for like those additional services, which can be great. But that wasn't her job. Like, that's my job still, to go in and say, okay, yes, she's categorized. So it should be even easier for me to look through and see those red flags, or see things that like, oh, why is this expense line more expensive, or what's happening here, and be able to, work through that. So just a little like challenge to anybody that's even outsourcing their bookkeeping, like make sure you still have one day a week. And for me, it was one day a month for a while. I had like a duty day, and I would go in on that day and take a look at things. But even having that and staying on top of it is really beneficial.
Yeah. And I think it's important, like what you're talking about with like bookkeeping and even accounting, right? Like understanding the function of that person in your business.
Yeah.
Because the bookkeeper has organized your things. The bookkeeper is not telling you, here you have a whole bunch of $10 expenses. You probably won't spend money that way, right? Like the bookkeeper is just putting that in the line item that you designated to help you get your like P&L together. That's all they're doing. And I actually co-work with one of my friends who's an accountant, and she does accounting for small businesses. And we've talked a lot about people pay for these services, but they don't look at the records that they're getting from their bookkeeper or they're getting from their accountant. So that could even just be something that you dedicate to, and you dedicate time to look at those things. Don't just accept numbers as they are. Like you need to have some touch point on like what's happening in your business. I feel like recently, and by recently, I don't know, last year, I heard someone who was like maybe a millionaire or something like that, where they were just talking about like, even when you make a lot of money within your business, it doesn't mean that you get to be hands off in your numbers. Because if you're giving the privilege to someone else to write the checks in your business, that doesn't mean that you know where the money is going.
Yeah.
Right? And so just think about like, what are you outsourcing? And I mean, like right now, I'm just even talking about like a mental outsource, because you have a bookkeeper or you have an accountant, but you're not taking what could be 15 minutes to be like, hey, let me actually see if this makes sense. Or last month, this said this. Why does it look different? Because it could be a company overcharged you, right? Or like didn't give you the refund back, but it gives you that agency. Once again, how I attach it to freedom, because like, they're not taking money that they're not supposed to, then you have more say in what gets to happen in terms of the revenue that's coming into your business.
Yeah. It's like, to me, I was thinking of the feeling of empowerment. Like we should be thinking about our money in that way. Like you're the one doing the hard work to bring that in. So we want to be excited about the income line, like what's coming in, but then also recognizing, but then where's it going? Like what are the expenses? And how can I be empowered to take control of those expenses?
And like, I'm sure that some business owners that are listening to this, like how many times in your business have you felt like, well, I know I'm technically making more because I have more clients or I've sold more products or services.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I see or am reaping any of that. So I feel like that's a red flag for you as a business owner to say like, well, what numbers are you paying attention to? What numbers have you looked at? And 9 times out of 10, I think people are like spending the money because you're thinking, oh, well, I got 2 extra clients. So now, I'm going to go do X, Y, and Z with it instead of like building a system within your business. That speaks to how do you manage extra income within your business? Like I think about people, mainly I would say all business owners, right? Like your income isn't the same every single month.
Yeah.
And so what do you do when you do have like a $20,000 month, but like then you have a $5,000 month? Well, when you made $20,000, you didn't kind of like stow away some of that money. Yeah, you're going to feel a pinch when you make $5,000 because you didn't have the foresight to plan for that month that like you don't receive as much revenue. And so if you're like really paying attention to your numbers, you'll start to learn the trends that are happening. And even just like I said, thinking about, okay, well, here's how much I make, in the last 6 months, here was my average. Let me build out scenarios based off of my, average and not what's right here in front of me.
Yeah. That's so smart. That's so wise. So this has been so helpful and just good to like think through like these like practical habits and things we can start doing. And even though this is a unique time, right? 2020 as a whole has just been very unique for so many business owners. These are still things that we can start doing. Like even though your revenue likely looks different this year than it has any other year that you've been in business, like there are systems and habits we can put in place so that 2021 can look different also on like the revenue side in a more positive way.
Yeah. And I would say like consider it a gift to yourself. Like if you want to put like the optimistic spin, right? Where it's like, okay, well, this is what I have in front of me in terms of revenue and what this looks like. How can I be thoughtful about it so that when business does pick back up or I figure out what my pivot's going to be, that I'll be better prepared if there's another situation that's like this.
Absolutely. A huge lesson, I feel like, for so many, like myself included, like just on how to be prepared. And while we hope a pandemic is never what we're facing. There will likely be down seasons in our business, even if it's not countrywide or worldwide, down swings. So there are ways that we can, like you said, be intentional now to be more prepared next time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just thinking about, right, like how do I build reserves within my business, and just starting to do that slowly over time so that your business actually is fulfilling the full purpose that I'm sure a lot of us created our businesses for, which is like, to build a life that we love. And with that, I think comes being responsible. So that, gosh, I hate that word responsible because it's like, okay. But I'm like intentionality, right? Like I have 3 months set aside in my savings in terms of like expenses. I have another 3 months set aside for my, like my owner's draw on compensation, and just thinking thoughtfully about those numbers. Cause some of us just run on like, oops, hope that next check comes through.
Right. Yeah. And that's definitely not a free place to run our businesses from.
No. And don't use an excuse that like we weren't taught. Like I also say, just start up money conversations with like other business owners. Cause I think that helps a lot too, where you're like, hey, what do you wish you had known when you first started your business? And just like gaining insight in that way, I think can also help like all creatives like go a long way. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so helpful. So this has been great. Thank you so much for sharing so much with us. Can you tell everybody just where they can connect with you? And I'm going to link everything in the description, but just let everyone know where they can connect with you. And I'm sure you have additional resources on your blog and things like that they can kind of gobble up too.
Yeah. So you can access or find me. Wow, I can't talk right now. I'm on Instagram at wealthovernow, or you can go to my website at wealthovernow.com.
Awesome. Well, we'll link all of that. I'll also link Profit First. I know we mentioned that in the beginning, and I love that book. Just that whole mindset was really helpful and like transformative for me when I was thinking through how I'm looking at my money and what that means. So I'll make sure that we link that too. And Keina, I just really appreciate you taking this time to share. And hopefully everyone will be able to reach out and connect with you further and head to your website and blog for more information.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Kat.
Thank you. Thanks, you guys.